and to deliver this wonderful session for this topic of innovative teaching and learning in higher educational institutes. Well, my topic is effective teaching methods. A very good evening to one and all, my dear faculty attending. So this is all the topic where we generally comes or talk about in our day to day with our colleagues and think that is whatever the teaching and what is the methodology, and we generally knows every concept. But the problem with this is the implementation method. So we try to implement, or we maybe have some problems with either with the different scenarios. Let's this session discuss about the importance of effective teaching and what is the gain by the effective teaching with respect to the faculty eternity as well as the university or the colleges. So let's start my session about this. And next one, this is. So by this introduction, I will quote a famous poet, that is Rabindranath Tagore. According to him, a teacher is neverly truly teaches unless he is still learning himself or unless he is experienced. Where we know generally a lamp can never light another lamp unless it continues to burn its own flame. So this is what the according to the definition of a teacher with the respective of a famous poet Rabindranath Tagore. So he himself thinks that teacher will play a crucial role in the society or vital role in the society to change the students and one's life. So let me discuss about this effective teaching and what is the importance of the effective teaching the case. Now it is nothing but the knowledge, strategies. It consists of the knowledge, strategies, processes, and behaviors of a staff or the faculty which leads to the good student outcomes. So this is what the teaching involves, the process. This is a complete a section where it is implementation of the knowledge, implementation of your strategies, various methodologies, and the procedures for a students are to implement with respect to the students, and the behavior of the faculty towards the students is very important, so that all these will constitute to bring out a good student from the universities. So the role of the effective teachers has a positive impact on the students. This is already we know. Just as we casually we talk, when we say who is your favorite teacher, we will say only one teacher among the various teachers those we have taught for us, but we remember only a few teachers. So can we, if we really think about that, there is some positiveness regarding that teacher which has influenced on us, so that we are very positive towards him. So that is the effective teaching. So therefore this will has a good impact on the students as well as the teacher also. Now these are good outcomes can be measured. So how do I know that I have taught effectively? So that is generally measured through the summative assessments or the assignments or your exams. So using those methodologies, I can find or I can observe the students' outcome, and using that outcomes, I can able to understand what is the problem, whether I have taught that properly or not, and where is the problem, where it is a problem lies with the teacher or a problem lies with the students or the environment. So this will recognize by conducting the summative assessment with respect to the teachers. Now, a very clear important point to remember that it is not immediately result. So we could not estimate or we could not predict that it will come within a short term period. It is a long term or visible or immediately visible or measurable. This is a long term goal. That means we need to process continuously, and finally after so long a period we are able to understand or able to produce. This is not about a 1 month or a 15 days or a quarterly. This is a long term process. Now by implementation of this effective teaching, what the teacher will get, so it produces the excellent relationships among with the students or along with their colleagues and it provides a respectful environments in the university. So this is what the importance of your one of the important point regarding this effective teaching. Now, so much more, this we will calculate this end of year data. We are continuously ongoing process, and we will find the learner needs. That means the effective teaching is not according to your teacher's plan, but it should be also consider the learner's needs, what the student wants to become and what he wants to desire to learn. So being this teacher, he has to mingle he along with those definitions or those requirements along with their curriculum, and the teacher has to be delivered efficiently. Now, effective teachers, the role of effective teachers will always monitor the learners and make them effectively, so who are actively involved in their learning and personal developments. So, next, also, these teachers provoke the curiosity in the students to learn the subject more and more. So, they think beyond the conceptual. That means they start to think about the conceptual wise rather than question and answers type. So, that means by injecting a curiosity in this student's interest, or simple, I can create interest on the students so that he is tries to learn himself, so that now they are going to develop more and more, they starts developing more and more. And also the effective teachers also loves their subject and they to teach, and they shows their interest in every class, and by giving various examples with respect to of their experiences. So these all about this introduction part. Now, so why this effective teaching is necessary? Because the present system of education system is not only restricted to the teacher centered. That means in the olden days, they what they said, the teacher will give the notes or they dictate in the board, the student will observe or write anything, whatever the material they get, they used to read it. But as the technology progressing, the concept of communication skills has been arising. So once the concept of communication skills arised, now the suitable environment, surrounding environment of the students starts questioning about the subject rather than their marks. That means the recruiters or the other persons, those who are really interested to recognize himself, they are used to recognize in terms of the conceptual rather than the degree. So once the view of the students recognition has changed, and hence it is necessary to change the procedure of the teaching. The hence effective teaching becomes more and more important nowadays. So this teaching helps us students to achieve their goals both personally and academically. These all we come across day to day. And it also shows an monumental impact on student achievement. Moreover, the important point of aspect of the student teacher's point of view is they can improvise the relationships with the students, and the surrounding environment will be eco-friendly, which is very, very important in the classroom. So if the atmosphere is clear and very happy and healthy environment, now that students can able to ask or put their questions, not questions, they himself they put the doubts towards the teacher. If the teacher becomes more serious and entering into the class, then the teacher is will not student cannot put a question, or they could not express their doubt. And that also, and one more thing is, it is not mandatory to always laugh, to always give more jovial. That means it should be, the teacher must be realize where should be seriousness and when should be the leisure or towards generous. So this is what the effective teaching helps us, this conceptual wise. Now the use of innovative teaching methods helps not only the communication skills of the teacher, but also it improvises the learning skills. and also it also helps the teacher to learn beyond their curriculum. So therefore this is helpful. Effective teaching is helpful for both the teachers as well as the students. Now when we go on to into the schooling, it is only a single line process or single way process, where the teacher dictates and the students as children has to dictate that notes. But when coming to the higher educational aspect, now it becomes the shared process. Now here the shared process means both are responsible to contribute their students success. That means the teacher as well as the student. Now within this shared process, what happens is the student involvement in this process will be more. That means the involvement of the student, the curiosity of the student has to be increased day by day, and they are able to understand of higher levels. So how they are going to understand is by questioning themselves. In this process, the teacher will helps as a guide or a barrier to help them in different various aspects. Now here the also the major challenge with the students, this is what we usually find in our educational institutions, is most of the students are not ready to face this challenge. This is a very major issue in the any educational institution, is they are not going to change their way of learning, because they are already addicted to a olden strategy, but they are not ready to change they are not ready to adopt the new strategies. So this will becomes more and more difficult task for a teacher to put them into a new path. So now there's all, and also many more students apart from this, many more students are always think that subject is only meant for the marks, not for the concepts. So most of the students that we read only the subject it to get in order to get the maximum marks or score the maximum marks. So they in this process they are not able to understand the concepts. Now the best teaching helps the students to question their preconceptions and motivates them to learn. So in this with their existing model, this while implementation this questioning model, now at a stage the students understand that the old traditional path is not sufficient, and this new way will makes them eagerly to learn the more beyond the curriculum. That means this learning process is gained by the students by facing with the problems in which they are think they are important. Now see, student-centered active methods and problem-based and project-based approaches are very common types in this education. So when we look after, not in this country, when we look after in outer countries like European countries, there is a called a European project semester. Now, what is this European project semester will gives you, that is, they will assemble all the interdisciplinary all the students are gathered to be at one place, and they have to discuss the issues on the various interdisciplinary aspects or interdisciplinary issues in the teams. So in fact in our scenario, the student will think that the important for them is only the subject concerned to their disciplinary. They won't think that the other department subjects are not useful for us. They always used to think, why should I read this so and so subject which is not relevant to me? But the effective teaching will helps is how to handle those tasks when he or she went into their practical environment. And another method is the development of softwares. So in this recent says, there is free library open source softwares which are used to engage the students in the development of software. That means they used to give some projects, some sort of projects based upon the technology they are chosen. So they used to do very simple projects in the curriculum part. So therefore they are ready to face, they are ready to eager to learn the different aspects. So these are implemented in the various foreign countries, that still we are going to have to change. Recently we are going to implement many and many, that means the attitude by implementing with the national educational policy. Now we are, all the universities are trying to change from the olden to a new one. So several researches have been conducted and on this pattern, on this issue, and concluded that only giving a lecture, so without any effective means, does not have any effectiveness. That means does not show any impact on the student. So this is what the conclusion has been drawn from the olden strategies. Now, before to implement in this case, now I should go for the various. Now, what are the challenges or what are the issues that we are facing, the teachers are facing, to produce the effective teaching? Now, the requirements. First one is the requirements defining the curriculum and resources in the teaching. The large number of students in classes and high volume theoretical principles. Now, see what we are using it. When we are preparing this curriculum, we used to follow the olden traditions. That means some universities will never try to change their curriculums. So they used to follow or to take from others, they used to do it. But they have to remember that the student joining in this university or different various different knowledge levels. So they don't bother about the knowledge levels of the student. They used to implement what IITs or what NITs have been joining it, but they don't observe it whether this curriculum has meant or useful for this student or not. Even if he or the teacher thinks it is useful, but it becomes very loading, that is called cognitive loading. It becomes cognitive loading to the student, and ultimately there is no use of preparing curriculum if no one understands what the subject means. So this is what the need for student-centered teaching is obvious, but for some reasons the requirement in the teaching curriculum should be thoroughly changed. And by implementing these effective teaching methods, the problem arises is the resources. We have to develop these effective teaching methods based upon the resources available in the institutions. So this becomes very strictly, that is restrictable. So these are not feasible completely. And another barriers are, do not take a problem-based learning and student-centered learning in their evaluation as a bonus for teacher. This is very important concept of a teacher when he or she puts the exam. So, or to prepare the question paper. Now, while doing his evaluation, most of the questions are from what he or she taught to the students. But none of the questions will never be on the conceptual wise. So this is what the problem will is, if at least in the form of, if we put into the at least evaluation process something, we can get the effective teaching. But the problem is associated with it is, a few will follow and many will not follow. This discrimination will leads to various discrepancies in the universities or the departments. So in order to avoid those discrepancies, all will follow the old pattern. This is what they have to do. So if you see, for example, if you see that the CBSE exam 10th class, there is a question called case study. So using that concept, they all define their own questions, and the students asked to read and from the passages and put the answers. The concept is same that they already teach in the taught in the class. So that kind of questions we are not going to put. Many of them we are not going to put, because the result is very important for us. So if we think about the result, we are not going to improvise the skills of the student. And third one is the do not use educational assistance. See, when a survey has been conducted in many and the present areas, many of the faculty members has believed that lack of motivation in students and the lack of access to educational assistance are considered the reasons for neglecting these methods. So the first and most is the lack of motivation in students, because the student has been thinking in one say atmosphere and he's not ready to change his path. And moreover, the thing is educational assist, that means supportives. So educational support from the for the teacher is also very scarce. So therefore it is difficult to implement in all these scenarios. So this is what one of the barriers of the effective teaching. And next one is the lack of interest and motivation among students. So the thing is, now the each professor could attend crowded classes with 2 or 3 assistants. Now this is what very important. Many of these colleges will generally think the AICT, or they will put simply 1:15 ratio or 1:20 ratio, but very few will follow that. Even if they follow, there are some discrepancies that the scenario is not exact. Many of them is not exactly following that. What the problem is, one professor or one assistant or one associate, or simply I can say one teacher could not handle or could not monitor the performance individually. The individual performance cannot be monitored by a single teacher. So that means there is to do some grouping, and therefore for each group one teacher will be assigned, and there every time that we will observe their 15 members performance day to day, maybe an exam to exam, there will be a different. So based upon their performance, he or the teacher may give some instructions or suggestions to improvise their performance. So unless and until this should be implemented, we cannot improvise the effective teaching as well as the improvise the skills of the student. Now this having a successful and effective teaching that creates long-term learning on the part of the students. So therefore these there will be some attitudes. So by implementing these requirements are required to faculty outlook in an effective teaching. That means what are the requirements? So every teacher could not become a good effective teacher. That means every teacher has their own capabilities, and they have their own positives and negatives. So now in order to improvise myself as an effective teacher, I require some of them abilities or some of the criteria. I need to meet some of the criteria. The first criteria is alignment with organizational strategies. So if we put our question, what is the vision and mission of your organization, many of the teachers won't observe it, because they think that they are not part of the organization. This is what the majority teachers will think, that they are not their part of the organization. So they used to only think that to have to teach the particular subject, I am for that, and my duty is to teach it, and that's all. But the thing is, if you ask any teacher, a survey has been conducted recently. Now many of the teachers has asked, what is your organization vision and mission, and what is your department vision and mission? So what happens is 60% of the faculty does not knows about their vision and mission, and around 20% they don't know how to mingle, that how far you have achieved your department's vision and mission with respect to the university's vision and mission. So 20% people there could not give it. So only 10 to 15% they are really becomes thinking that they are a part of the system. Majority members, they are not thinking they are a part of the system. So if they think that they are sufferable, so they could not improvise the skills of the students as well as the skills of the teacher, and also the university could not grow, and the university could not reach their goal too. So that means if the university goal or the institution goal and the teacher goals are same and aided, then it will give the most important impact. It shows the most important impact on the students. So this will becomes your one. So next one is, another requirement is interested in students and trust in their ability. So many of the students, Even they are ready to prepare or they are able to answer, but they do not have their confidence on them. So this is what we the teachers usually observe. Now the teacher's role is to put them into show their to grow up their self confidence, and they must be role model to others. This the teacher has to ready to help the students and the improvise the individual uh, performance of the student. Now, in this aspect, the teachers will play an important role in the sense. So, the next one is the systematic approach in the higher education. The systematic approach is now, since it is an organizational institution that is has its own protocol and its own rules and regulations. So that means it follows, everyone must follow the systematic view. So even if a teacher has to follow the systematic view to teach the class, so he could not go ups and downs and whatever he wished to take, he there is no such scope for it. So in these concepts, the teacher has to interlink their concepts with respect to the interdisciplinary issues. That means the students able to understand, that means why this concept is going to read and where we are going to implement, and for what uses this can be used, and what for what other purposes also can be used. So this is a known factor, this should be known to the student. Unless then only he or she could makes the student could makes the interest on that particular. So if we say only the topic and the definition and the derivation itself, there is no they simply they will learn by heart and they will try to score the marks from that. So beyond that, the teacher will has to take the responsible to explain the to enhance their knowledge of the particular concept beyond the curriculum. So next one is interested in the scientific field of study. So this is to achieve almost above all the things is the teacher first has to be ready to improvise himself. If the teacher is not ready to improvise himself or herself, no such things can, no improvisation can be done, either organizational value, organizationally, or institutionally, or departmental wise. There will be no improvise unless and until the teacher is not is ready to handle those challenging tasks. So if the really teacher is interested in his field, that means he is passionate about teaching. Now he will increase it, he will update his information regularly, and he will always inform, he will receive the information, and it is coped with the industrial point of view, and that information will be presented to the students in an effective manner, so which always makes that students very effectively to understand it. Now by implementing such atmosphere or implementing such methodology, now what is the thing is the approach towards the student, that is a behavioral change will be observed in the teacher, and performance wisely there will be an absolutely improvisation, and they are ready to cope with the students, which enables that the teacher understands their mental differences, what is the real interest of a student, whether I am going to the in the student's point of view, whether this task is useful for it or it is useful for their in practically, and emotional stability. All these things can be understood by a effective teacher if he is ready to face that challenge or to take up that challenge. So once he is ready to take up the challenge, keeping in view all these minds, a class curriculum has to be prepared. So generally when we used to make the lesson plans, we used to copy what is it in the syllabus. But when coming to the real time part, we may increase or decrease the concept. So that means this transition has been changed. This is how been appeared depending upon the interest of the student as well as the interest of the teacher. So now given the current study subjects, the following functional requirements also required. Now that is having a course plan using appropriate educational strategies. So the most important role of a teacher is planning and the controlling the educational process for students. This is how you going to plan, right? How far it is going to achieve this plan is going to meet the requirements of the students. So while preparing the lesson plan or the teaching plan, so we just used to think about the subject wise, or means whatever the thing is there in the syllabus, we just used to put it up. And meantime, while you are teaching, we will observe that there is a gap. That means we used to extend. When we observe that there is a gap, that we have to give some more information to get well understand by the students, then we will extend that particular class. But actually, it is not represented in your lesson plan or teaching plan. So this is what we generally implement, but an effective teacher has to understood whether we has to enlarge this topic or it is necessary to put a shorter form, and which is very important in there. By analyzing all these concepts, he need to prepare, he or she has to prepare this lesson plan. Now this lesson plans has to gives and a cope up with a different ideology, whether this plan is going to increase the students' motivation or increasing the knowledge, help students feel confident in solving problems, and students to plan their learning activities and to carry out self-assessment at the end of each lesson. And also, the lesson plan has to do some activity to encourage the students to motivate them for future work. So, by implementing all these above activities, finally I can get the feedback from the students and I can assess the individual learning. So, these are all the requirements while we are making the lesson plan. And next one is metacognition training and self-assessment of students. This is what is metacognition training means what the students wants, really wants. That means a effective teacher really understands the mood and the knowledge levels of the students. So by understanding their knowledge levels, the teacher has to down to earth regarding to their knowledge levels and to explain the lessons. So if by not observing their knowledge levels, if you try to explain either in a very diplomatic differential language, where is very far passionate language, or in your own native language, does not give any sense. So, and moreover, for every topic there should be a summary of the at the end of the session, where is the reason for it to occur and what are the reasons of issues and the causes. And the one more thing is requirement is conceptual map and pre-organization plan. So once if you are going to plan that training part, that means going to the practice session, now you have to learn through the promotion of education using pre-organization. So that means whatever you are planning, it should be a student centric rather than the teacher centric. That means in this case, the teacher has to be act as a helper to the student, but not as a major role. So, and one thing is encouraging creativity during teaching the lessons. Now, everyone has their own talent. So, not all the students have the same talent, not all the teachers have the same talent. They are probably they are very much efficient in their own. So, now it will be strengthened. The teacher has to strengthen those knowledge or the talent by giving suitable aptitudes or appropriate programs to prove that initiative programs will help to enhance the knowledge level of the student. So this is what how to do it. So explaining and developing knowledge on how to resolve the issues. So now what is the senior faculty, that is who is a really senior in their institutions, now what they will have to go for the classroom management skills. Now we have to maintain whether the instructors was going to do in the right way or not, and they have to use to collect the strengths and weaknesses of students, and they have to prepare a what we can say a protocol to change their students' weakness into the strengths. So this is will be more progress continuously, so that all the things have been monitored by the senior instructors. So now whatever we are taughting in the institutions, it is important, it becomes important to their in a real-time environment. Now moreover, the last and least is documenting experiences. So even though some people were orally strong and in terms of writing points, they are become weak. So we need to make proficient, that in the case of your teaching learning methodology, the writing case also you have to improve. So which will provide easier access to up-to-date information. Now, developing a satisfactory interaction with students. Now, what happens is to connect with the students and impact their lives personally and professionally, teachers must be student-centered. And now once the students will observe, that means the teachers has to be interact with these students, right, if by a friendly manner, so that they can understand, the teachers can understand the feelings, the problems faced by the students, and they can easily suggest some ideas or some solutions to them, which proves their positive feedback on the students. So therefore, they are ready to share. The students are ready to share any communication, either in the academic point of view or in their future case, or if they have some problem regarding their own. So they will personal problems they can share, and they can ask their questions, or they can ask their solutions to submit. So if by doing this kind of things, now the teacher has, now at that moment, the instructor or the teacher has the control over the students. Now once the control has came, if the instructor has guided them in a right way, the students will follow him, because of there is a bonding between the teacher and the students. So which helps them to improvise the academic performance and ask them to resubmit assignments like prior to assigning a grade. Next one is effective teaching. So this effective teaching also requires structural changes that can only be brought about by academic leaders. So even though we are ready to change or we are ready to implement, but these changes must also be adopted by the management side. So if that's what I said, if the management goal and the teacher goal are the same, then it is very possible to implement all those things. But if the management goal is different and the teacher goal is different, then that is not, there is no, how many years do you have establishment, but there will be no improvising in the student skills. They will be put like that only. As the teacher will be stay like that only, as well as the students also. There will be no improvise. But even though experience counts, but we are not ready to accept the changes, or we are not ready to face the challenges. So these quality assurance approaches that measure learning processes outcomes in much more attaining sophisticated way, so that the change of the attaining university accreditation. Now all these things are there. These are the barriers and the requirements. So far we have discussed about the barriers, that means what are the challenges to implement the effective changes, and the what are the requirements to implement that changes. Now what are the methods that we can implement in an effective teaching process? One, the student centric discussion. Next, collaborative learning. Next one is the flipped classroom, and next one is VAK teaching, and next one is spaced learning, and next one is differentiated instructions, and last one is dual coding. So what is, let we can discuss one by one. That is student centric discussion. This is already we you are using till now. That is the student participation has to be more. This kind of discussion is very important in terms of engineering fields or engineering concept. Now in these aspects, teachers keep students at the center of these tasks. Now teacher will give, right, will make a group of students, right, and ask them to present on a particular topic. So now the students are divided into discussion groups, and for each group the teacher will provide a facilitator. That means one of the person as a leader for that. So once after conducting it, now the instructor or the faculty will write down or note down the various positives and negatives of various groups, and later on they will keep the discussion with all the groups individual, either individually or collectively, and they will what they have note down their positives and negatives, and they will be discussed a brief session regarding that aspects. So and another thing is collaborative learning. In this case of what is collaborative learning and student-centric discussion is the student-centric discussion. Here the teacher will himself will be centered or helpful. They will be present here. That means here the collaborative, cooperative session will be there. So in the case of cooperation is not evaluated, only a group of people will come and they will discuss, and what their opinions they want to express, they will express. They never think about the other people's opinion. They may or may not consider their opinions also. But because of the presence of a teacher, they all becomes in a one row. uh, Sorry, they all becomes one scenario. But in the case of collaborative learning, now the teacher will not be there. The student, the teacher responsibility is to make the group, that's all. Now the responsibility of the group is to select the topic as of their own or of their concerned with the tutor instructor's choice. So now they have to present all those things, right? All those things regarding a particular topic. For example, a documentation, a presentation, a design, and implementation, or developing a prototype. All these things cooperatively has to be done, and they have to be present. So which improvise the various or diverse talents of together in groups to solve an issue or complete a task. So here this is the, in the case of collaborative learning, the cooperation along with the coordination, that is called cooperation, will also be there. So the advantages is they can enhance the communication skills and cross cultural awareness. What is cross cultural awareness means? If two different people combine together in a farm, they come to know each other very well. That means their languages, their behavior, their what about their that is called their positions, their parents, what is the parents will do, what is their, that is what their communication, the religious, whatever, all the aspects, they come across each other. Therefore it builds a cross cultural awareness. So learning from peers. So not, since the teacher is only restricted to give an instruction, so the students will always try to learn or gain the knowledge or by discussing with other students, that is learning from peers. But disadvantage is introverts the struggle. Their students has to put a lot of struggle to finish a task. So, but another thing is group work skills training required. Here I could not make directly make the groups and give an instruction to do it, because many of the groups or major group members does not know what to do after forming a group. This observably we can come if we are doing the project work, especially when we go in the engineering field, that we are in institution, when we are going to do the project work and we have assigned a group of 4 members and we will give an instruction, this is today how to do it. They don't know what to do. They will come again back to us. They will ask, sir, what is the next process? So this is what thing is, they, if we are not ready, they are not ready to cope up it, because they are not much aware about the next step. So for them, they have to give the training. That means what we have to do, what is the next step. All these things has to be done. And at each of every stage, assessment inequities is there. This is problem associated with all the groups. That means assessment inequities means one person in a group will get more marks and another person in the same group will be less marks based upon their performance. This will provide, or this will raises the inequalities between the students. So this is also one more disadvantages. And the key benefit of this teaching is that every student plays a role in the success of a group, as they work in collaboration and support each other to reach the desired result. Next, this also learns us to develop skills such as active listening. So, and how to work together in a team. It also enables them to meet and work with different personalities and get genuine feedback on their work. So, this is the advantages and disadvantages of collaborative learning. And next one is the flipped classroom. This is already we know. In general, regular classroom, what we take, we will take students are taught new topics by the teacher, and then assignments were posted for the students to solve regarding a particular topic. Next, in the case of a flipped classroom, students study new ideas at home. 1 minute. sorry, in a flipped classroom, students study new ideas at home and then practice them at school through presentations, debates, or lab experiments. So, this not only promotes students' involvement but also their self confidence and analytical abilities. So, by using implementing the flipped classroom, that the students will be more control over their learning. They are able to learn themselves, and which also promotes the student-centered learning and collaboration. Also, makes course content easily accessible since it is in a digital part, so it can be easily accessible. Next, disadvantage is to access out of the college, the student has to utilize the internet. So that for that, the internet speed must be very fast. And to prepare in each content, that preparation time must be some larger. So, and out of all this preparation, this thing is a flipped classroom assumes that students are all much aware about that class of preparation. That means we could not access individually because the content is prepared by thing. That means we assume that the whatever the content is prepared in the classroom, that all the content is known by the student. So this is what. And next, VAK teaching, that VAK stands for visual, auditory, and kinesthetic instruction. So it is a comprehensive teaching technique that focuses on improving learning experiences via the utilization of three primary sensory receivers. See, some people are good at or can gain their knowledge by visualization. Some people will gain the knowledge most probably than audible, and some people are interested or can gain the knowledge by doing the practicals. So three kind of categories of students are available in that classroom. So according to their ideas, so VAK teaching has been developed. For example, reading textbooks and taking notes can suit the visual learners, but teaching a topic to the class is please the auditory learners, and doing the practicals can please the kinesthetic learners. So advantages of this teaching is identifying the preference. That means we can really understand to which kind of category, that means improvisation, which input has to be given to improve the skills. For example, there is no chance of giving this auditory to visual and visual to the auditory. And next one is independency learning. So by giving these different groups, making upon the T techniques, they are able to learn independently. Then it is easy to use and science of learning. So we can gain the knowledge and varying modalities, and it is flexibility. So varying modalities means we can change the different versions when you just writing the notes or typing in the case of video, and audio will be in the visual, text, image or thing. And next one, practicals by developing a prototypes. And next one is learner growths. So we can increase the learning capabilities of each student. But disadvantages is the categorizing. So by giving the categorization, the student of one condition or one category does not cope up with the other category. That means he is not able to learn the other categories of teaching. That means if one who is very much gain the knowledge through visuals, he is not ready to learn the gain the knowledge through audible or doing the practice. That means he will be proficient, or if he will be in the one domain only, and he is not put in the another domain. That is called hindering learning. Next, implementation. While implementation, some technologies will require long term, so therefore it requires more time to preparation. That is accommodation also. Next case is spaced learning. So in the case of spaced learning, now what is especially this will do is this entire concept will be divided into several short sessions or modules, what we call it as a modules. Here each topic will be considered as a module, and every module has been given a pause, so adequate pauses, I mean time gap. So this during this time gap, the student can understand or regain or reconstruct about the previous classes, so that they can be retention of the material. Now The spaced learning is based on the concept that learning is enhanced when knowledge is repeated after certain intervals. So this spaced learning is developed because of the forgotten curve. What is forgotten curve means? So if I talk a simple thing is today's class, some people will remember for only 1 hour, some people will remember only for 4 hours, some people will only remember for 10 hours. But after the 10 hours, no one will be remembered. So that means forgotten curve. This is what we really observed when we are teaching the class. So this is how we can overcome this kind of problems. That is called dividing these intervals, repeating several times. So that's what we will generally do is revising the class, yesterday's class, today, or briefing the session for 10 minutes, yesterday's class, and then we will continue to make or connect with the today's class with the yesterday's class, so that they can regain their or reintend their knowledge. So these will be three areas, that is present, recall, and understand. So first input session is the present phase. That means whatever the classroom has been taught, that will be the present, whether the classroom is being done using the blackboard or video lecture. Next one is the recall. The second section is recall. That means whatever they have learnt in this session, they will be put some questions or quiz or assignment for the learners to recall their what they have learned. And next one is understand. So understanding means we have to implement those concepts in terms of practically. So that means by giving or assigning a problems or task. So these are the three categories that we are in a spaced learning. So next one is the pros and cons of your spaced learning. The pros is making practicing easy and flexible. You can spend just 10 minutes a day using spaced repetition. And it works well for visual learners who benefit from connecting imaginary to facts, and great for memorizing isolated facts, vocabulary, or rules. There are plenty of apps and tools to help you build flashcards and use spaced repetitions. So you can use this what we call it as multimedia. So cons, that is negatives, is you need to plan a long way ahead and leave yourself plenty of time. You need to spend those curriculum to be depend. You need to spend a long time before the semester or the year begins. Now requires a long-term commitment before you start to see the results. So already we discussed about that. Effective teaching is not in a very short period. It is a long-term commit. So you should be a really commitment towards that. You should be believe this methodology works for you, and not effective when trying to memorize a larger theories or long form information. So this is very not effective to regain all those huge theory concepts. Only it is useful for a shorter definitions. And designing flashcards can be time consuming and requires a lot of imagination. And the last next one is the differentiated instruction. Now, what is differentiated instruction is, so according to the, we need to group different peoples, and if for each group of students, we are identifying the requirements, and after identifying the requirements, we need to put some instruction to them. So by taking that instruction, the group of students are going to do it, and we are going to continuously evaluate, and we are giving the improvising the effectiveness of this approach to the instruction. So it consists of 4 phases, that is content. So content means what student has to learn and how the student will get access to the information. And next one is the process. What are the activities should be done, or which methodology has to be implemented to make sense of the master the content. Next one is products. What are the outputs or culminating projects to bring the output of the theoretical part, and to understand or to extend what he or she has learned in a unit. And the learning environment is the way the classroom works and feels. So these will be the 4 phases of the differentiated instructions. The advantages is this allows students to learn in their own ways at their own pace. The greatest advantages is by developing e-content or anything is they can learn at their own pace and whatever their required time. And this is increases the student engagement. So it makes towards to sit or to learn more time, to spend more time on this particular concept, and grants more flexibility and creativity for teachers. And disadvantages, that is extra time and effort to implement. So less adaptable to larger class sizes. So this cannot be used. So this cannot be used for larger number of sizes and difficult for in inexperienced teachers to use. This is one more concept, and its effectiveness is not, sometimes it is not scientifically proven. That means this is not a very common methodology that can be put on into the practice. Sometimes it shows a negative impact and sometimes it shows the positive impact. So this, the effectiveness is not at all the clearly stated. Next one is the dual coding. So the dual coding is the process of mixing words and visuals such as images, diagrams, and graphic organizers with engineering topic content in order to increase the students' learning and recall. So now what we will do is we will never put the picture. So when you are preparing the PPT, simple thing is sometimes we use images, sometimes we use words or sentences, sometimes we use both the images and some relevant information regarding that image. So that will be called as the dual coding. So this dual coding will becomes most effective because the content will be available with respect to that image. So the pictorially at the same time the words can be relevant and it gives more information, delivers more information to the students that needs lowest effort to grasp. So the teaching style not only helps students information retrieval but also allows them to creative. This is what the student teaching style of the teacher helps the students to gain the more knowledge and to think creatively by visualizing the image. So as a result, we can handle the difficult concepts and materials can be delivered smoothly and with the relevant images. And finally, in this case of your conclusion, the most effective teaching method will depend upon the specific learning goals. This is what the important aspect is in this is whatever the methodology that a particular teacher wishes to or wants to take up, there is their own choice, but it depends upon the situations and the students' knowledge levels. And also not only about that, the organization atmosphere. So based upon these activities, on these aspects, the teacher can wish to take up any kind of their way, any kind of your effective teaching methodology. So by implementing this effective teaching methodology, the specific learning goals we can gain, the subject matter and the students' learning styles and abilities also takes place. So different teaching methods more or less effective depending upon the situation. So these pedagogical approaches facilitates the students in to reach an important goal in the education. So student integrative thinking will become essential to successful transition to professional practice. So this is what the main objective is of effective teaching is to change that student integrative thinking from your what you are going to change is sorry important goal in student integrative thinking and the ability to connect knowledge and skills across the accurate nursing curriculum are essential to successful transition to professional practice. So what we have to make this to our role is to change from student to professional. That's all. All these effective teacher pedagogies are necessarily implemented to be ready with the industry cope up because there is a large of gap between the industry requirements and the students knowledge levels. So these courses provide dedicated opportunities to connect theory to practice. Contextualized learning provides also contextualized learning and enhance professional role development. So by choosing appropriate resources and appropriate methods can be implemented to assist the student to develop the habits of mind that integrative to develop the integrative thinking and promote the clinical decision making. So by implementation of various methodologies we can make the student from change a student to the professional levels. So thanks for giving you this opportunity. This is end of my sessions.